People ask me why I advise them to focus on tiny marketing wins every week instead of big marketing wins. I'm going to get to that in a second, but first, do you remember being a college student, a poor college student, and going home to your parents' place to eat their food?
Would you like some more chicken, Bob?
You
want some more salad, Bob?
Yeah, I think I do.
I used to do that. I would try to fit a week's worth of calories into one day. I'd go home and I would just pig out. So sure, I saved money, but at what cost? Well, here's why I think you shouldn't be focused on big marketing wins. First of all, marketing doesn't work like a jackpot. You're not going to hit this one magical tactic that's going to cause an avalanche of sales. Instead of putting it all on black, it would be better for you to diversify your investments. Try a bunch of different tactics and a bunch of different channels. This way, you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. You'll be getting customers from different places. Second, marketing is a lot like physical fitness. Small gains every week give you big gains overall. So if you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, don't just show up at the gym on January 1st. You've got to show up every single week. You've got to put in the work. It's your consistent effort over time that's going to build the biggest muscles. And lastly, for many of you, marketing is a big, hairy, ugly, scary problem. And what's the best way to deal with an overwhelming problem?
By breaking complicated problems into simpler problems.
Break it into smaller pieces. My advice is this: try something new every week, evaluate the results, and then double down on the tactics that work. 1 week, install Google Webmaster Tools and learn how to use them. The next week, try blogging on Medium. The week after that, run a small Facebook advertising campaign. So implement something small every week, evaluate the results, and then double down on what's working. By the end of the year, these baby steps will have turned into big wins overall.
Today we're going to talk about SaaS marketing and 17 tactics that you can add to your strategy to market and grow your SaaS business. This is a conversation I have way too many times with founders, other SaaS marketers, so I figured I'd record a video that shares the 17 things I recommend for SaaS companies to actually grow their business. No particular order, but these are 17 tactics you can add or choose to add to your marketing arsenal. All right, let's jump into it. Number 1, free tools or educational content. Think 10x content. Mailshake, you've seen our masterclass, our playbook. We've got a couple other guides coming out. We have a new tool that's like an email analyzer, but those are all great things. Now, put it into HubSpot example, their website grader. Neil Patel has tons of guides and ranks for pretty much every freaking digital marketing keyword. I'm coming for you, Neil. So free content or free educational material and free tools are great because they provide a lot of value, and then you can get emails and really build up that audience from there, get rankings, and have an evergreen traffic source to generate revenue. Number 2, have a free trial on your SaaS product. Yep, not really a marketing thing, but free trial users versus paid, much higher. So paid, you might have a higher friction point early on. You're not going to get as many email addresses. One thing you can do is check out the Mailshake sign-up flow, and we have a 2-step sign-up flow where we don't technically have a free trial, it's paid, but we can capture email addresses, and now we treat it as an abandoned cart sequence. So that's another way, but ultimately, if you're new or you want to build up momentum or you really want to go after a competitor, make it your business or product a free trial. You're going to get a lot more awareness, a lot more people through the door, and if you're early, you can get a lot of that early feedback and customer development and products feedback. So definitely do that. Number 3, and I said this before, but identify your ideal customers. Identify who the heck you're selling to. What this will do is 2 things. It will help you, 1, find out where they are and make sure your marketing actually goes after them. Too many times you're like, I want to market my business, I'm going to do it this way, that way, but you don't really figure out and sit down to like, who is the actual customer, where are they going, how can I get them? And when you do this, make sure you understand what their problems are. I said this before, but you can create content all around their top problems and cross-reference that with SEO, and you can get some or keyword research, and you can get some really good SEO juice out of it. But doing that it's a huge thing. You don't think it's going to grow your business, but it's probably the basics, like the fundamental to grow your business. Number 4, speaking of fundamentals, lay the inbound marketing and SEO and content marketing, which is what I call inbound marketing, foundational efforts. So find out the keywords. Is it blog posts? You need to keep blogging. One, this is going to help pay dividends in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. This is what's going to help you drive ongoing traffic. It may have very little impact in the first 6 months of your business, but it's definitely one of the core channels in how you can grow your SaaS company. So don't forget about that. And I can tell you, I'm kicking my butt every day for not going even earlier into creating content in that foundational effort, because those who did got the advantage, and it only gets harder and harder as there's more competitors, more content that's already good, and people who are willing to do more work than you. Number 5, add a call to action to the top of your blog, and maybe even remove your top navigation, or email opt-in to your blog. So aggressively collect email addresses from your blog. Don't just create content, and whatever you do, don't be like every other freaking dumb founder or SaaS marketer and create your blog on Medium. Create a freaking WordPress or whatever blog, host it on your domain, so now you can do pop-up, Sumo, opt-in monster, whatever you use as a tool, but you can then collect email addresses and control the experience, because Medium cares about Medium. Although it looks like a very, very sexy platform, very simplistic, focused on the content, it really screws you on the call to action. So that's a tip and a warning there. Number 6, focus on the service part of software as a service. What I mean by this is customer service, customer success, and really about how you talk to customers, and how, when they have a problem, the process of which you go about solving it. Sounds really, really simple, but this is the key to word of mouth growth. And too many people focus on the software side and product features, bells and whistles about what they can make their product do better. But if you just helped your customers, actually physically help them, that could be the key difference between if you had an identical feature set to your competitor, but you just did better customer support or customer service, you can get more traction. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about the human element of software as a service, all right? Speaking of forgetting about things, don't forget your product is the marketing. People using your product, having a great experience, will generate word of mouth. In fact, maybe there's places to test out a referral program, test out maybe people sharing it, maybe people giving you feedback. These are all great things to do. Or maybe you look at your power users of your product and you engage them to essentially maybe write a case study, or you ask them how they're using it, who they are, get to really know them. And I talked about customer development earlier on, but maybe that's how you're going to get more details. But ultimately, your product, if you're running a SaaS business, your product is the marketing. If for Mailshake, for Voila, Norbert, I could speak to those because I'm very much in the weeds on that. If I just turned off all marketing, we would continue to grow. Now, it won't be as fast. Why is that the case? Because over 50% of our new customers and revenue comes from word of mouth. First of all, you can't steal that away from anybody. Number 2, it came from just having a really good product with great UX and winning on price and a few other things. But ultimately, your product is the marketing. Don't forget about that. Another great tactic is to publish maybe an industry report. Forrester has done a great job at this. I know, yes, they are a report type company, but ultimately you can follow that same playbook. Maybe it's an annual update on whatever it is, on an industry update on SaaS, or an industry update on whatever your industry is. Those things can become, 1, ongoing things that you do and help you build awareness, but 2, this is a great reason to maybe reach out to all of the organizations, the conferences, the events, and maybe to get them to essentially push your content, your industry report out to their email list or their members. So a double whammy there. And now you get in front of their members, and essentially they're aware of you, and you've got a really target group of customers. So don't forget about the industry report. Great tactic. Comparison pages. So your competitor name versus your company name, right? If you look and Google boomerang alternative, you will see lots of companies ranking for that. So competitor alternative or competitor versus your company, these are both great. Essentially allows you to rank for your competitors' brands. Not always possible. So if I were to create a Salesforce versus whatever, I probably can't rank for the keyword Salesforce, but maybe I can rank for a Salesforce alternative. Or maybe there is other CRMs that have lower competition or less of a brand that I could go after. So do your research and create a content piece accordingly. Another great tactic is to head over to Quora and look at and search for your keywords. And you'll find essentially, based off your keywords, people asking questions on what, recommendations for a product, how to do this and whatever, how to do whatever you sell. And answer the questions that have the most highest views. And this way, you're more likely to essentially get more impact and traffic. Now, you'll probably see that there's a lot of answers. So be more robust than them. Be helpful. Don't push your product early on. Maybe you can push your product or example somewhere lower in there and get your friends, get your network maybe to upload it. I've seen whole blog posts uploaded on Quora. And speaking of blog posts, maybe you can republish some of your blog posts that answer a specific question on Quora. So republishing your content on Quora is a great place to do it. But again, in the form of an answer of a popular question. One of my favorite tactics here is guest post. Guest post is great for getting in front of people's audiences. So you'll see us you've seen me probably do a ton of guest posts. What I'm doing here is getting my brand, my company in front of a different audience. It's much easier for me to get in front of a different audience than it is for me to build my own. In fact, it is the way from all of these guest posts I've done to build my own audience. And so getting in front of other people's audience is great. Now, another powerful feature here, or another powerful thing, is if you look for people, guest post opportunities where they email their content, all their content to their email list. Now, not just do you get in front of their audience, their traffic, you get in front of their email list and be top of mind. So really, really powerful there. And I would, if I were you, prioritize the ones who email their list over just a regular blog post. Another awesome tactic here is co-marketing. Again, leveraging other people's brands, co-marketing partnerships. Maybe it's a joint webinar. Maybe it's a deal that you do for people. For Mailshake, we did a deal with LeadFuse. LeadFuse has some sort of deal that they offer for Mailshake. We've got something for them. It's a win-win for both of our companies. It's a win-win for our customers because they provide data. We allow you to send emails using that from that data. We don't provide data. So again, win-win, not our competitors, but they sell to the same customer. So that didn't start there. We started with a guest post and we did some more. We did a webinar. I did a video interview with Damien, one of their co-founders, and it kind of built upon it. So don't always start with a product integration. Start with maybe a blog post or a video or a webinar or something like that. That can work well as a starting point. Another great thing is live chat and chatbots. So I created a video recently on Zenefits, and I went and booked a meeting and a demo with Zenefits, and essentially using their email form. It took me 5 days. Using their chat, I got a demo booked for the very next day. And the only reason it was the next day and not that same day, because it was a Sunday. So live chat can be great and chatbots can be great for scheduling demos because they happen much, much, much faster. The trend of the world of marketing is going into more conversational marketing. Anyways, you can answer quick questions on live chat and ultimately get people and turn them into a lead. So if you go to Mailshake right now, you'll see a live chat window if you're not a customer. And the first thing we ask you is, what's your email address? Where does that email address go? Right into our database. What do we do with that? Probably nothing to start, but if you said, hey, can you email us about this and that and the other, now we put that to a sales team or wherever. So live chat can be really, really powerful. The test I've done, about 17 companies I worked on with live chat, all of them saw an increase of 30% or greater in conversion rate. So I can't say it's going to work for you, but 17 times it's worked for me. So I would give it a try. one of my favorite things, and I have a lot of favorite things here, but one of my really absolute favorite things is to get in the friend zone or befriend an influencer, right? And all the influencers in the space. So why this is really important is like, then you get in the inside of what people are actually talking about. Like without all the noise, the fluff, one, you see how big that inside is. Two, it's actually not as hard as you think it is. Maybe you could provide an influencer free access to a tool. I read about marketing. I get lots and lots of marketing companies who ping me saying, hey, you're an influencer, can you do this? Now, it's not as bad as I just said it. It's not a crappy pitch like that. But they email me and the premise of it is for me to check out the software. Now, guess what? After I check out the software, they're going to ask me, do you like it? If I say yes, they're going to be like, awesome. Can you write about it? I'm like, nope. Can you use it? And then of course I say yes, or if I can use it, I figure it out. And eventually, if I love it, I'm going to write about it. SEMrush did this to me about 5 years ago, and I fell in love with SEMrush. I actually use Ahrefs more these days, but I talk about SEMrush all the time because they're top of mind. I've been using it for 5 freaking years. All it did is they started off with maybe they gave me a year and a half for free. And the smart thing they did, this is really, really important here, is they gave me 6 months for free. And then that made them have an excuse to email me month 5 to say, hey, how you liking this thing? Without annoying me, oh, by the way, here's your coupon or whatever it is to get your account for another 6 months. And they made me work for it a little bit. So really, really powerful because it's a great excuse. You can do this for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Really, really awesome to know the influencers because they're going to tell you what they like. They're going to tell you what they don't like about your competitors or what they love about your competitors. And you're going to get a lot of knowledge and marketing ammo for this. Number 15, yes, we're that far down the list here, is to create an email nurture sequence. Yes, I've said this before, but opt-ins are and email marketing is one of the most powerful ways to build an audience and really keep them up to date and build trust, and really ultimately get sales after some time of nurturing. So build an email nurture sequence. You can maybe build a sequence based off of your top blog post or top content. And if you don't have any content on your site, you're a brand new company, curate content. Curating is the second best to creating your own awesome content. So no excuses of why you can't create an email nurture sequence, right? Number 16, focus, and I can't say this enough, focus on your 1 or 2 top marketing channels. How do you know they're your top marketing channels? Work backwards from your goal. You want 1,000 new customers a month? What are the channels that are going to get you there? Make a list of all the ideas. Now, think about build a hypothetical framework of like, okay, if I ranked really well for this keyword, how much traffic would it drive me? What's the conversion rate? It would generate X amount of searches, X amount of conversions per month. Do that for all of the ideas that you listed out in this, and just pick the top 2. Pick the top 2 or 3 things and just go do them, and do them really, really well. Because there's no way a SaaS company, especially if you're bootstrapped, can focus on 5 or 6 things at one time, let alone 2 or 3. You do one, go to the next one. I usually focus 80% of my efforts on my main 1 or 2 channels, and then 20% on testing and kind of the stuff I don't know, so that I can get them to be at least 1, predictable, and 2, I get a gauge of where, if they're even going to be an opportunity, or rule them out in the first place. And the last tip is don't read or watch or take everything you read for face value. First of all, everything's done really in bubbles. I told you I have 17 examples where live chat worked. It's worked for me 17 times. It could not work for me the 18th time, right? So read or watch videos or learn, talk to people. Get ideas. Use this for inspiration and motivation and for brainstorming ideas. Don't just implement it because it worked. Because the latest, greatest growth hack, first of all, the best growth hack is have an awesome product. So go build an awesome product. That'll probably take you 10 years. But the things you read about aren't always as great as they sound when you implement it for yourself, because there's lots of variables in play. What works for B2B might not work for B2C. What works for me in my crowded market, Mailshake has 65 competitors, I think, that I know of at least, might not have any impact on your industry. So, take all of the stuff you learn as inspiration and apply and run through that framework of choosing the 20% of ideas that you think will have the biggest impact for your brand.
Hey, I'm Laura Roeder. I'm the founder of Meet Edgar, and at Meet Edgar we use a really specific strategy for planning and goal setting, and this strategy has gotten us to an ARR of 4 million in 3 years. The first thing that we do is we don't set too many goals. We call our goals big rocks, and we set 3 big rocks per department per quarter. We do ours per department because when we tried to do them company-wide, we found that we couldn't really find good goals that really impacted all the departments in the same way. You know, one would be much more heavy for operations or customer service or product. And then for a customer service one, the product team was like, what are we supposed to do to help with that? And the part that we do a little bit differently is the big rocks have to be something that is totally in control of that team. So what a lot of people do for their goals is they say, okay, we want more traffic for our website. So we're going to increase our blog traffic to 100,000 visitors a month, right? And that's their goal for the month, and they kind of leave it at that. The problem with that is it doesn't tell the people who are executing the goal exactly what to do every day, right? People might have a really different idea of how to get 100,000 visitors. People might be running in different directions, and it leaves you with that feeling that team that's supposed to execute, they have to wake up every morning, you know, start their work for the day and say, there's so many different ways to reach 100,000 visitors. What should I do today? So what we do instead is we break down that bigger outcome that we want to get to something that is in full control of our team. So if we want 100,000 blog visitors, we might say, okay, one way that we think we can achieve that is by increasing the amount of times a week that we blog. So this is a big rock that we had earlier this year. We're going to start blogging. We went from 1 time a week to 3 times a week on our Meet Edgar blog. How are we going to make that happen? And the thing is, that's something they can totally control, right? Because you know how it is. Sometimes you try different things. Maybe you'll get to your 100,000 goal, maybe you'll go higher, maybe you'll go lower, but they can't say, yes, I checked that off. Where post 3 times a week, that's a very clear yes or no. What I would encourage you to think about differently with your goals is to take those bigger things you want to achieve, right? To get this much traffic or make this much money or see this different outcome in your business and break that down into exactly what needs to be done. What is our best guess, right? For a tactic that's going to achieve that. And then your quarterly goals become those very clear tactics that you or your team is 100% in control of.
So Lauren, one topic just specifically for you, because it's so interesting at Box, it's true of everyone on the panel, but let's talk about if you want to attract SMBs, but your product is used by companies of every size, right? Small, medium, and large. And so how do you roughly, what we can talk more about, how do you deal with that challenge and when your product can be used by any segment?
It's interesting. There's definitely very, very different marketing motions and buying motions. So the way we look at marketing at Box is really breaking our audience into 3 different segments. You have your sort of SMB segment, which we can talk more about, this idea of mid-market volume enterprise. And then also sort of your upper market enterprise segments. And the way we start to think about it is, for us, because we sell to the CIO, it is no dedicated IT person, dedicated CIO, multiple CIO. And if you think about it for SMBs in general or anyone marketing to SMBs, it's on the SMB space, you don't have a buyer. There isn't a dedicated person whose job it is to find you, find your company, find your product.
Yes.
Then you go sort of the mid-market spaces, you probably have a person. There's probably someone whose job it is to investigate, evaluate your product, buy and implement. And then you're going to go all the way up market, which is lots of people, lots of different ideas, and really decision by committee, really, really different buying motions.
Yes.
When we started to think on the SMB side, it's you have to take these buying motions into consideration. I don't have enough time. I don't really care. I have to solve a problem immediately. So we started to build, we still have sort of your self-serve model, which was actually pretty different from the Salesforce side, is if you want to buy our product online, go to the website, buy the product online, pure self-serve model. You can also fill out a form, get contacted by a salesperson. So when we start to think about SMB, it's what are we going to do for things at scale? How do I make the buying process as simple and easy as possible? And also the deal size is going to be a lot smaller when you sell to SMBs. So when we start to think marketing motions, metrics, how do we track success? It becomes, I need to do things that will be ROI positive. How do I look customer lifetime value? And how do I make sure it is a quick, easy experience so it is a profitable way to do marketing.
Yes.
And then once you're going up market, you know what, I can afford to lose a little bit more money. It's not just about the marketing touch. It's not just about credit. It is about how do I influence the whole buyer.
Yep.
So with SMB, it is quick, easy, a lot of conversion optimization, a lot of scale, a lot of things have to happen digitally. And things that we're starting to test out that are really interesting in SMB is starting to say, what are the things that you can do up market that are worth pulling into SMB and trying out? And when you're selling to the enterprise, it's so funny. Now I can talk a ton about field marketing, and field marketing was huge probably 15, 20 years ago and fell out of fashion and is kind of coming back around in the enterprise. And we started to say, well, how can we do this for SMB?
Yeah, how do you do field marketing for SMBs?
It's a lot more user groups. It's a lot more community.
So let's just step back for a minute.
Yep.
It's a fun topic.
Yeah.
First, define field
Yes.
marketing in 2016 for the audience. What is 90% of the people on this don't even know what field marketing is,
and
but it's a fun topic for SMBs. What is field marketing
so
today?
I'm fascinated by the marketing industry right now because what is coming into vogue, what's coming into fashion for marketing right now is marketing 15 years ago. Account-based marketing and field marketing is how you did marketing 15 years ago. But now it's the new hot trends of how do I do one-to-one marketing? It's like, this is what I used to do that nobody cared about.
Yes.
So field marketing, a lot of the ways you think about it are, I'm trying to sell to a Fortune 500 company. What's going to be important? It is the hand-to-hand combat. How do I get people in a room? Whether I have a lunch and learn where I have a speaker, I have a 10 or 15 customers and prospects in a room learning about this.
So field marketing for enterprise is steak dinners. I call it in quotes, but it's steak dinners.
It is steak dinners.
And when you're selling to
events.
SMBs, steak dinners seem like the dumbest thing in the world. I got to get on a plane, and there's going to be 40 people in a room, and I'm going to close a $5 a month product. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so folks that have been, they don't want to do field marketing, but you want to connect with human beings. The more you can connect with human beings, the more it empowers that word of mouth, the brand, the connection. And I think when you meet someone, they never churn.
Nope.
If you meet someone, they never ever churn.
You build that personal relationship, the personal connection. It's because I know you, I'm going to trust you a little bit more. I'm going to care about you. I'm going to value you in your opinion.
How do you at Box for SMBs? How do you do this field marketing connect in person playbook?
So we've done a couple of things. One that we've been doing lately with a lot of success is this idea of a virtual summit. So I'm going to have a user conference, which putting on user conferences, a lot of people, super expensive. Everyone has to fly out. So we thought about how do I build this experience digitally? So we had a virtual summit on the 19th. We had 1,000 people come to the event, and it was, here's your video intro from our CEO, from our CSO that's going to come in. Here's your tracks of different sessions. Here's your actual lounge area for you to talk and to interact. Here's all of your resources. We had people spend over 3 hours in a virtual summit downloading an average of 12 pieces of content.
That's super interesting because I'm so impatient. I'm surprised to learn this. Right?
And when you think
so
about it performs really well, and you get that interaction between people. And I'm sitting at my desk, I'm sitting at my computer, I'm also learning what's going on. I can talk to other people that I care about. I care about their opinions. I have all of these different booths to go and learn about Box Education, Box Consulting. Here's the Box and O365 integration, and people are actively choosing to learn more, to engage with us and to engage with their peers, and it's completely digital. It's still work on our part, but you can do SMB at scale. And we've combined that with in-person user groups in different cities. So we've got smaller user groups, more low touch, and really starting to empower our community. And here are our community.
Do you put those on, or do you just incent some of your advocates to do it?
A little bit of both. And then the marketing team, and what's really interesting that I see happening more right now is the marketing and the CS org partnering more and more, because to Leila's point, it's not just about how do I get someone in, it really is how do I take the voice of the customer, how do I bring it back? So it's take the marketing department, the CS department, and the two of you basically go out together, and we've got CS reps all over the country. We also have sales reps all over the country, so it's no longer I have to fly a marketer out. It is who do I have that's local? Who do I have that's engaged with customers? Let's get a really excited customer advocate. We'll go there, we'll set up the venue so we can start to do these sort of advocacy events. So it is the lower cost, more scalable field marketing effort.
And Leila, you've been at Salesforce as a senior executive for quite a while. This is an amazingly successful and aggressive company. Like, let's close big deals and logos and all this. And inherently, when you're in one of those magical organizations, the focus becomes on sales, right? And almost act, just as an organization, it's hard to focus folks post-sales as much because you're so logo-centric. So what are you learning today? It's 2016 and at Desk. Like, what's the right ratio of scarce resources pre and post-sales?
I mean, I think what Bill said makes sense. I think it kind of depends on what's going on. I mean, I think the thing that's a little different for Salesforce on the post-sale side is the community we have. And, you know, we're 16, 17 years old, so we're a little older, but our community is on fire, right? They take our customers through the process, often with, you know, unbeknownst to us. They do it, just they hook up, they find each other. And then out of the community really born Trailhead, which is kind of our learning module that goes right next to it. Back to what Lauren was saying as far as the virtual summit, but the idea that give people information and like pace it out to them and then give them a forum where they can interact with each other. The idea that a virtual summit 10 years ago would have been like, this isn't gonna work, like my mom's gonna come, Jason and Bill, but like, you know, like,
Coming to hang out.
but I think people are more accustomed to getting information in that fashion now and talking like on Twitter. I mean, I tweeted you know, we like banter a little bit more online than I think that we were accustomed to 10 years ago. And I think SMBs need to take advantage of that. In fact, if I look across just the United States for a minute and look at all the SMBs in the United States, they don't take advantage of this. They don't have a good online presence. They don't engage. Like my dry cleaners, I always bring her up because she's at Salesforce, but she's so funny because I'm like, you could be doing such a better job. Like just pay attention to when you ruin my husband's shirts and then send me a coupon, or like you break my buttons, or these little easy things you don't even need to know. But she's like, scary, internet, no. I'm like, no, come on. You know, so I think that we are all in technology, so this is all really second nature for us, and we feel like, of course, a virtual
But we
summit.
almost take it for granted because this is the space that we live in, and this is the world that we live in.
And it's normal for us all to talk online and do whatnot, but my dry cleaner, that's terrifying for her to even consider doing something like that. So how do we make that not terrifying for her? She joins a community. She sees that you and I are doing it. She gets, and that's it. I mean, we're lucky at Salesforce because we have that massive secret sauce where that community, any product we launch, anything we do, they just take it and boom.
But let me ask about Desk as a case study.
Sure.
Because Salesforce is the most successful SaaS company of all time, empirically.
Thank you.
I mean, no, but what's interesting is then you come and you're the GM of Desk.
I am.
And so you have a special opportunity to take some of your best practices and learnings and do even better.
Right.
In a mic. So are there one or two tips from customer success, any of this post-sale stuff that you brought to Desk that are tips for the audience, for SMBs?
Yeah, I mean, a number of them. And I had the lucky fortune of being at Salesforce for so many years and watching us grow from SMB into different ones. I mean, I think that the key things that we did at Desk were really trying to refocus efforts on making sure we were paying attention to when our customers were leaving, too. This is something small. This is something that is hard for anyone to do.
Very hard.
You're so focused on the sale, and then you get it, and you're like, good, someone else's problem. On to the next, you know, like this kind of shift motion that we've all been doing. So I think that the idea, I learned that at Salesforce. I learned that you had to pay attention to making sure you got your customers and you kept them.
Yes.
Right? You didn't just go them out the back end. So applying that learning to Desk, really focusing on who do we have, how do we keep them, how do we make them happy, like, and paying attention to the software and figuring out metrics we could look at that would help. But NPS is one. I created a health metric that was based on a whole bunch of things that the company kind of said they felt about things, like what their thresholds were. But then I got that information back in Desk, and I'd be like, okay, they've entered 5 tickets. They're about to go, they're gonna get hot now, and I don't want them to get hot, so I'm gonna call them.
Can you save them then, or is it too late?
Yeah, you call. I had an infrastructure in place. I called the CEO and I say, look, I see a lot of tickets coming in. Is everything okay with you?
Yes.
Do you need anything? Do you want my support team? And honestly, that call was often, they were just so shocked. Like, you know how many support tickets we have, Layla? I think they were like, what are you doing? But, you know, it was easy for me. It was a report that landed in my inbox. So it's not, it was
and you're
no work.
calling small customers.
Yeah.
You're calling someone that's spending thousands of dollars a year on Desk, right?
But they, look, Fitbit.
But no, this is a key insight. You have to find a way to connect
small customers
at a human way with
big
customers.
Yeah. Not every small customer does, but some do.
Yes.
Fitbit's a great example for Desk. They bought Fitbit. The guy who started it, Park, he was the one answering the tickets in Desk.
Yes.
They grew huge on desk, and then now they're up on Service Cloud because they have all this crazy, they want to do a lot more they have all these countries and different products. But that's a great story. I didn't know Fitbit was going to become Fitbit. It was just Fitbit, and he was using it. Same experience as my dry cleaner or whomever. Like, I don't care, but sometimes little companies become Fitbit or...
The alternative to that too, or in addition to that, that's a great point, is that I think a lot of companies say, well, what is the value of a customer, even a small customer, right? You're like, well, let's just their first sale. No, let's look at the lifetime value, right? But even lifetime value, I think, really underappreciates their influence. So what if that one small customer told 1,000 other people or had massive influence? Now, are they worth more? And also, too, like, I'm with Slack. We're 500 people, right? Is that, I think I'm still with an SMB. I know people in other large companies and medium-sized companies. And so I think you just have to treat everyone and knowing that, like, just give them a great experience. And help them out so they're going to go tell lots of other people, and then you're going to get like this compounding, accelerating growth. You're going to have a much bigger lifetime value, and just focusing on that.
I call this second order revenue, but we way understate the value of our customers, right?
My name is Hamid Chojai. I'm the founder and CEO of PureChat, which is a new startup on as a live chat company. And today I'm going to be talking about important SaaS metrics that you need to know about your software company. Whether you work at a software company or if you're starting a software company, these are the type of metrics that are sort of important to know. Now, before I get into the sort of meat of the subject, one thing this talk is not going to help you, or the metrics are not going to help you, is to find a perfect product market fit. So before the metrics become important, you actually have to have something that is a product market fit. So I equate this to, if you were looking for oil, and we were going around drilling for oil at various different places. Eventually, we have to find an oil well that's gushing oil out before the metrics become important, and measuring how many gallons of oil or liters of oil per minute are coming out of that hole, and whether the flow is increasing or decreasing, or how much oil you can expect coming out of that well. You won't know how to, the metrics of measuring all of those things won't be important until you've found that hole. So finding a good product market fit is first before the metrics become important. Now, once you've found that oil hole, the metrics become important because then it tells you how many politicians you can buy and how long you can sort of pollute the environment for. So I've struck oil 3 times, once with Axosoft, then with Transfer Big Files, and most recently with PureChat. And I'm going to actually use some of the information from PureChat, some real numbers, to share with you guys. So hopefully this talk will be a little bit sort of useful. One of the key and initial and simple metrics to sort of know about your business is your conversion rate. So the conversion rate is basically the number of people who are coming to your website. How many of them are turning into trial or demo leads? That's one conversion rate. And of course, you can have conversion rates for various different things. Of the visitors that come to your website, if you're converting 10% of them into trial or demo, that's pretty good. And then what percentage of them are actually turning into paying customers? And that is another sort of conversion rate. 10% of trials turning into paying customers would also be pretty good. But what that means is that of your website visitors, essentially 1% in this sort of example are turning into paying customers, or your conversion from website visitor to paying customer is 1%. From trial to paying customer is 10%. This is often referred to as a conversion funnel, and you might have more than 3 steps in your funnel. There might be website visitors. They might visit a few different pages, which might categorize them, or you might categorize them in your business as a hotter lead. Maybe there's steps in between trial and demo where they talk to salespeople, and that funnel sort of determines your customers coming into your website, and then a fewer of them are signing up for a demo, fewer of them are talking to a salesperson, and fewer of them are actually turning into paying customers. The way you determine what your conversion rate is just paying customers divided by number of leads. This is one example of leads to paying customers conversion rate, and that's pretty simple, 10%. So I apologize in advance, but this talk is very simple math intensive, and it's relatively dry. So the rest of this talk is going to be much like this. Another one of the most important sort of metrics is the monthly recurring revenue. This is probably the most important measure of a SaaS company's success, monthly recurring revenues. And what that means is that if you have one customer, and that customer is paying you $100 per month, your monthly recurring revenue in this scenario is just $100 per month. Now, things get complicated when you have some customers that are paying you on an annual basis. Maybe they're paying you up front. So in the same month, you might have two customers. One of them that pays you $100, signs up for a $100 monthly account. Another one that signs up for a $1,000 annual account and pays you up front. So your revenues that month, the cash coming in was $1,100. But your monthly recurring revenue from that second one is actually $83 per month for the next 12 months. So that's how MRR is calculated, monthly recurring revenue. So in this scenario, that $1,000 per year customer is actually worth $83 in MRR. So your total MRR, monthly recurring revenue, is $183 in this scenario, right? One of the sort of metrics that, again, VCs and potential investors are going to want to know about is your MRR growth. This is where if you map this over the course of multiple months, and these are actual numbers for PureChat's MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So we started charging for our product in September of last year. We had 3,000 in that first month of MRR. It raised to 5,000 and 7 and 9, and in January to 16. And you can see sort of here, our MRR increase month over month was $2,000. And then in January, it was actually $7,000 for a variety of reasons. But in any case, this growth is what a lot of potential investors are going to care about. So that's the MRR, net MRR growth number that you're going to want to know. Annual recurring revenue, another sort of key metric, is just basically your monthly recurring revenue multiplied by 12. So if you have $183 in our example of monthly recurring revenue, you multiply that by 12, you have $2,200 in annual recurring revenue. So in our two customer example, one of them was paying us $1,000 a year, and obviously in a year you're going to get $1,000 from them. The other one was paying us $100 per month, and after a year, you're going to get $1,200 from them. So you add $1,200 and $1,000, and that's where the $2,200 comes from. So it's pretty simple in terms of how you calculate these things. But some of the other stuff, it's a little bit more complicated. In fact, one of the more complicated calculations that's also going to come up frequently is the customer lifetime value. So when you get a new customer, what is that customer worth to your business? This is a really important metric to know, because knowing this helps you determine how much should you be spending to acquire a new customer, right? So to calculate the customer lifetime value, you actually have to know a few other things. One is, what is the average revenue per customer that you're getting? Sometimes referred to as ARPU, because they like to pronounce abbreviations. So ARPC is harder to sort of pronounce. So average revenue per user is easier to pronounce instead of customer. So that's where ARPU comes from. And the way you calculate this is going back to our sort of two customer example, where you have two customers paying you different amounts, but they're paying you $183 of MRR, monthly recurring revenue in essence. If you divide that 183 by the two customers you have, in this convoluted example, we have $92 per month per customer. That's our average revenue per customer. So now that we know our average revenue per customer, if we could multiply that by the number of months our average customer remains a customer, we would know what our customer lifetime value is. So now the key question is, how do you know how many months your average customer is going to remain a customer? And unfortunately for startups, that's virtually impossible to know. But once you have enough enough customers where you have statistically significant data, you can actually calculate, without all of your customers having canceled on you before that point in time, you can calculate how long your average customer is going to stay with you. And the way you do that calculation is called attrition or churn. And what you do is you take the total number of cancellations that you get in a given month, so total number of customers that cancel, divided by the total number of customers that you have, right? So in a given month, for example, if you have 5 cancellations out of 100 customers, then your attrition rate or churn rate is 5%. So knowing that you're losing 5 customers out of 100, or 5% of your customers every month, you know that the average customer is going to remain with you for approximately 20 months. That's just 1 divided by 5%, or 100% divided by the 5%, and you get 20 months. So now all of a sudden it becomes super easy to determine what your customer lifetime value is based on your churn information, which is basically the $92 in our example of average revenue per customer times average customer is going to remain with us for 20 months, this is going to be an $1,800. In this example, the customer lifetime value is $1,840. Now, the reason that's super important to know, the CLV, is because now you can determine, okay, I can spend up to a certain amount that I'm comfortable with, and for acquiring each customer. If you were spending $2,000 for every customer you were acquiring, you would immediately know you're spending too much money to acquire customers. Maybe your price is too low. Maybe there's other factors that you need to sort of adjust, but that's not going to be a scalable factor. So one question might be, what is the amount that I should be able to spend if I have $1,800 in average customer lifetime value? And the answer to that is that you have to figure out your sort of customer acquisition costs to know what you're spending first to acquire the customer, and then you can sort of determine what your ratio needs to be. And I'll get to the ratio in just a second. But to determine your customer acquisition costs, or again, CAC, because we like to pronounce the abbreviations, so the total cost of sales and marketing is what you take sum up. And that includes sort of advertising, anything that you're doing, conferences, the payroll costs of those people, and you divide it by the total number of new customers that you're acquiring with that spend. So an example of that might be that if you're spending $50,000, let's say per month or per year, whatever the time frame, doesn't matter. But within that time frame, how many new customers are you acquiring? And you you divide those two numbers, and that is your customer acquisition cost, your CAC. So in this scenario, we're spending $50,000 for 100 new customers. Our CAC is $500. So if we had a CAC of 500 and the average revenue per customer was $1,840, our CLV to CAC ratio is 3.6, which is actually a pretty decent number. So you want this number to be greater than 3, essentially. Right? So that's all I have as far as sort of throwing all the terminology at you. And then now what I want to do is actually show you some real dashboard statistics from the live PureChat dashboard.
So today, I'm going to teach you guys about 6 unorthodox conversion optimization and funnel optimization techniques to help you generate more business and traffic and sales, right? And before I get started, who's the timer person? Is there a timer person? All right, cool. Let's get started. I'm going to go pretty fast. Just hashtag, feel free to use that. I've been doing business for 11 years. I've grown almost every single one of my businesses through A/B testing, right? As you keep running more and more tests, you end up learning new things. And I've just run so many. It's not that I'm smart or I'm smarter than anyone else here. I've just run so many and I've seen so much data. You kind of end up figuring out what works and what doesn't. So let's get started. Idea number 1, flip around your funnel. All right, so conversion optimization is like dating, right? So if I go up to a random person, let's say the lady looking down on her laptop, anyone, unbound shirt, what's your name? What's your name? Nadia. If I say, will you marry me right now? Chances are you're going to say? All right, if she was single, she would still probably say no. Why would she say no? Yes, she is smart, but what's the other reason? Okay, not enough data, but what else? If someone comes up to you in the middle of the street and just say, will you marry me? I don't care if they're Victoria's Secret model, right? Why would you say no? Or I don't care if they're Brad Pitt. Exactly, you don't know them. That's right. Whoever said that, give yourself a pat on the back. That's the way the internet works too. Why would you expect someone to just come to your website and be like, hey, buy something for $1,000. Okay, here's my credit card, right? I wish the world worked like that, but it doesn't. But once you get to know people, they're much more likely to say yes, right? Just like you date someone, get to know them, move in together, you ask them to marry you, hopefully they say yes. If not, you kind of wasted some time. But here's what most funnels look like. Someone comes to your website, sign up, and you generate some sales, right? So I decided to do something. I'm like, you know what? Why not flip around the funnel? Why not get people to actually use the product before I actually try to charge them? Put in a URL first. From there, what's your goal? Start creating product, right? It actually caused a 52.11% increase in signups. All by switching it around. Still ask for their credit card, just got more signups. Why? Because people got to play around with the product a bit before they actually bought. Idea number 2, evoke curiosity, right? People will drop off unless you give them a reason to stick around. So one of my buddies, Mike, we were talking and I'm like, what makes you stick around? And we were drinking beers and he's like, those virus checkers, right? He runs McAfee and Norton on his computer all the time, and it actually causes him to stick around because when it tells him there's a virus, he has to stay and find out what it is, so he finishes the whole test. Why he gets viruses on his computer? That's a whole different issue, right? But he has that problem, so he's always sticking around for McAfee. So I decided to analyze people's websites and tell them that there's errors. As they progress, there's more and more errors, right? Assuming we find them. Instead of showing them the errors, I say, put in your information, right? Got more people to put in their information. Gave them a reason to stick around because there's errors, right? 63.5% increase in responses. We were collecting leads. So not only were we getting more leads, but we had a 63+% increase in people actually following up because we were giving them a reason to stick around. Idea number 3, don't forget to follow up. This is my favorite. I have a friend, Timothy Sykes. He's a stock trader in the US. He teaches people how to make money by trading stocks. He tells you buy, sell, etc., right? And what he decided to do is he's like, if you want to be in my program and pay me $7,000 or $10,000 a year, whatever his program costs, it's actually pretty expensive. The guy crushes it. He's like, you got to first do these homework assignments. Think about it that way. He's telling you, if you want to give me money, you got to do homework, right? This is worse than college, right? I was like, this can't be working, right? So he taught me something. You need to train your visitors to buy. You got to teach them to open up emails. You got to teach them that if they do something, they can get a reward. So he did that. In essence, he's making people do little micro commitments, tasks. So every time he emails them a homework assignment, he doesn't just give it to them in an email. He makes them click to go to a web page to then see the homework assignment. Then they got to click play on a video. Do you know why he's making them click all these times? He wants the user to understand that if you want the benefit is free information. The homework assignments actually teach you how to be a better stock trader. You have to click. Without the clicking, you're not going to get the benefit. So that way, when he says, hey, here's an offer. Do you want to buy this? $5,000, $10,000, $20,000? What did he already teach you to do? Click. Not just click the add to cart. He also taught you to click the credit card fields and click the buy button. It works extremely well. Results, 84.7% increase in revenue. Now think about that. Giving someone a homework assignments increases revenue. Idea number 4, quiz your visitors. And don't worry, it's not like a college quiz. Everyone hates those, or at least I did. So there's a site called how much does a web app cost? It's something like that. I forgot the domain name. How much to make an app? I think it's howmuchtomakaanapp.com, something like that. And they decided to say, hey, you want to create an app? We're going to tell you how much it's going to cost. They start asking you questions, show you the progress bar, and at the end, if you're interested, they get your information saying, hey, if you're actually interested in creating this app, put in this information, and here's how much it's going to roughly cost. So there's a few things. When you're creating a quiz for your business, start with 5 questions, use images when possible, and limit your response choices to 4. Start with that. You can test up and down from there. And what you'll learn is more people will go through the quiz and they're much more likely to fill out a lead. There's a company called Revolution Golf. Have you guys heard of them? If you play golf, you may have. They do the same quiz model. They make you go through a quiz to figure out how to improve your backswing or reduce the number of strokes or whatever it may be. And by taking people through a quiz, and they actually adapt the questions based on the previous one you filled out first, they then show you a product at the end that you should be buying. That quiz generates them over $20 million a year in revenue. Not bad, right? We did this with lead generation sites. Instead of just asking for a lead, we make them go through a quiz first. And what it actually caused was a 281% increase in signups, all by getting people to go through a quiz first. Why? Because they're engaged, especially if you make them visual. If you make them all text-based, you're going to get a lot of drop-off. Idea number 5, Make signing up easy. How many times have you guys signed up for a service? Once? Twice? 3 times? I bet all of you guys have signed up for more than 50 services in your lifetime in which you're putting in your name and email somewhere. Would you agree with that? Probably even 100, right? What was if I could tell you that you can sign up for a product without giving your name, email, and password? Would you be happy, assuming it doesn't break any privacy laws, all your information is secure, etc.? Would you be happy? Yes, right? Well, you can. So buffer. Log in with Twitter, log in with Facebook, log in with LinkedIn, or log in with the email address. A lot of people are doing it. I understand they're a social media business, but anyone can do this. We did this at Kissmetrics. Kissmetrics sells B2B solutions for businesses. So you would think, oh, people would use their corporate email address, Facebook wouldn't work, especially Gmail, right? You guys wouldn't think Gmail would work for a business that only sells to other businesses. Well, we decided to test it out. Sign up with your Google account. We didn't even give another option that stated also sign up with your email. We made you sign up with your Google account, right? Just that one little change increased signups by 59.4%. Then we decided to do something funny. I can see the unbalanced person shaking their head. You're going to try this, aren't you? All right, try this after. It'll even work better. So we decided to do something else. We're like, you know what? I hate signing up. I don't mind logging into sites, but I don't like signing up. So we decided to change the call to action button to say log in with Google, right? We got another 22% increase in signups just by changing the word from sign up to log in. So if you take both the conversion rates, the 59 and the 22, it compounds, right? You're looking at roughly like a 90+% increase in conversions. That's not too shabby. All by just using Google. And we have customers like Microsoft, Amazon, etc. They all signed up through the Google funnel. And you would think people at Microsoft aren't using Gmail. I can prove to you they are. Right? So if someone's telling you, oh, it's not going to work, it's not worth testing, you know what? Try it out. You can't go wrong. Just send 10% of your traffic. What's the worst that's going to happen? Idea number 6. Get personal. And I got this idea from Facebook years ago. Do you remember when you were on Facebook like 5 years ago and you would see all these ads, your friend has a crush on you? You remember that? Those guys made a killing. They were spammers, but they made a killing. And I'm not saying you should spam, but you can actually learn a lot from these kind of people. Don't do the shady stuff they're doing, but take the ethical tactics that they're doing and replicate them and throw out the shady business model part. So dating sites make you feel special. Very special, right? They tell you when you go to these sites, OkCupid, Match.com, what else is there? Tinder doesn't do it because Tinder's mobile-based. Actually, Tinder kind of does it. It's geo-based, right? They make you feel special. So if I'm logging in from Vancouver and I go to Match, I don't know if Match is here. It's an IAC company. It usually says, hey, there's, 5,639 singles in Vancouver. What are you waiting for? Right? I was like, oh, that's a lot of single people in Vancouver. Maybe I should sign up. So we tested this out on timsykes.com. I'm determined to create a millionaire trader in Las Vegas. My only question is, will it be you? Right? Tim is down to create a millionaire trader. He's done this many times. We started using geo-based data. The sign-up rate actually increased quite a bit. We decided to do the same thing on my site. Do you want more traffic? Hey, I'm Neil Patel. I'm determined to make a business in Las Vegas successful. My only question is, will it be you? The best part about this is, for all the people around Las Vegas or cities like that, geo-targeting is not exact. So it may say Las Vegas even when someone's like 30, 40 miles away. You know how many emails we are getting per day? Like, hey, I applied, I really want to do it. I'm not based in Las Vegas, but I'm only 20 miles away. I can drive. Traffic's not too bad, right? People are really engaged. Like, wow, this is personal. It's just an opportunity for someone who's in Las Vegas. Heck, he doesn't service, and nor do I. We don't service people in Hamburg, Germany, but if you go to the page, it'll show up Hamburg, Germany if you're in Hamburg, Germany, right? That's what we do. Then we also took this data and decided to throw it throughout all the steps, from geo, popping in the name, changing it to a multiple step process instead of a single, so that way people are actually feeling special throughout the whole sign up process. You know what happened? 68% increase engagements. So conversions jumped roughly 30% from signing up, but engagement was more important. What I mean by engagement, I'm talking about LTV of the customer. Customers were staying 68% longer. And I know that may not sound like a big deal, right? But it's really hard to keep customers. If your customers are only staying for a year and you're getting them to stay for an extra 7 months, that's huge, right? That's 7 months worth of extra money. So personalizing a site, making people feel special like they do on the dating sites, can really help you grow your revenue. So try out these tactics. It doesn't matter if you're e-commerce, lead gen, service-based business. You can always test out these tactics. I've done on all these types of sites, and it works. These 6 tactics have been tested 20, 30, 40 different times on each and every single types of verticals, right? The only one you can't always use on e-commerce is the quiz one, but you can if you're only selling a few items. If you're using a lot, that one's a bit hard to use. Other than that, test them out. I guarantee you actually will see more growth from your business. If you don't, you can email me, heckle me, and I'll actually give you free advice. Take care. Thanks.
So if you have a software as a service product, we all know that attracting and retaining visitors and customers is going to be essential to the success of that product and your business. We also know that having a great targeted email list and a PPC campaign with a really well-designed and easy-to-follow landing page is going to be successful for attracting those visitors and having people sign up for the program. But what do you do once you actually have that customer? What are some easy ways to retain them? In the software world, it's called onboarding, and you want to make that onboarding process when your customer is getting set up to start to use that product as easy as possible. So think about what are some of the successful things that your customers should be doing with your product to make their life easier and to make that product super valuable to them and their team. Once you know what that list is, make it extremely easy and simple for that person to set up and really get accustomed to using it and using that product in their day-to-day work, in their day-to-day life, or whatever it is. Whether that's inviting team members, if it's a project management system or something like that, it's very important that people share that service and share the product with people on their team to make their lives easier and to actually make the full use of the product extremely evident. If it's something with respect to dealing with customers, make sure that your customer invitation is extremely easy, goes through email, and works very well in that respect. At the end of the day, what you want to do is make it extremely easy for the full service and benefit of that product to be seen clearly and well defined so that your customers don't have to have second guesses on what they should be doing with the product to make it really valuable to them. On top of that, it's really just all about continuing to understand how your customers are using the product and what can be done to make it a little bit better for them. So have an open line of communication. Your sales reps and your account reps should be contacting people that are using the product, and your product manager should know exactly what customers want out of the product so that you can add it or change the product as needed to make it extremely valuable for your customers. If you're able to do all of those things, your customers are going to love it, they're going to refer you to their friends and colleagues, and you're going to grow your user base tremendously.
It used to be that sales was a really bad word. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And now it seems like more and more SaaS companies are interested in that. Yesterday, we just gave a workshop to Y Combinator startups about sales. And you would think like a few years ago, sales would keep every YC company away from your event, right? Just the word sales. And we had 70 founders show up, and stay till 11 p.m. One piece of advice I've been giving more and more is that I think every time you hit one of these customer milestones, you go 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. I think that one mistake that companies make, this is, most startups are just interested, how do I get to that next milestone, right? Once we hit 100, we're like, okay, how do we get to 1,000? All I want to know is how to get to 1,000, Stelly. The problem is that if you go from 100 to 1,000 and you did not acquire the right type of customers, you're dead and you just don't realize it. Everything you can do
to decrease the distance between you and your customers is something you should be doing. So that means don't have anybody else answer most of the emails, answer all of the emails yourself, right? Your newsletter should be the founder's email address.
That's
so
right.
you get the replies to it.
Absolutely.
That's one. Support. You should be in support on the phone, in chat, in email, supporting the people that struggle, that have questions, that suffer, that don't know how to use something, right? The people that have problems. You should, if you can, not just virtually communicate, but also on the phone. And even better, in person, right? There's nothing better than visiting your customers.